This episode is brought to you by Spartan Combat. Go to SpartanCombat.com to order your custom team apparel for the 2022-2023 season. On Spartan Combat's Instagram, they just dropped some new singlets. They're fire, they're beautiful. SpartanCombat.com for your custom team apparel order. Now, on to this interview with Bo Nickal.
Before the match started, I just remember being like more nervous than anything I've ever felt. Just because it's the biggest moment in my career, you know, the team title's on the line. I don't even care about me winning the national championship. I'm here for the team. So it's that big of a moment. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to like get my mind right. And Coach Cael comes up to me and he goes, "What's up, man? How you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good, Coach. What's up?" He goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, if I had to put anybody out there right now, I would pick you."
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. As always, we're presented by Spartan Combat. Folks, we have an all-time interview. I just recorded this about 15 minutes ago with Bo Nickal, three-time NCAA champ, one of the hottest MMA prospects in the world. And this interview is all time. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again. All time. I love this conversation. I know you will as well. Let's get to the goods with Bo Nickal. Before we do, Fan of the Week goes to Brian S., who left an Apple Podcast review from Central California. "I'm completely new to the sport of wrestling, but I've fallen in love due to this podcast. The interviews and storylines are amazing, and I simply can't get enough. Would highly recommend this for any new parents of youth wrestlers like me or those who want to learn more about the sport." Brian, that's why we're doing this, baby. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's left an Apple Podcast review. Now let's get on to this interview with Bo Nickal, one of the best to ever do it. Ladies and gents, Bo Nickal. All right, Bo Nickal, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Excited to be here and talk with you for a minute.
Absolutely, man. First of all, congrats on an exciting start to your career. I know you just got another fight booked for Dana White's Contender series, and the last one went well. So congrats, man. It's exciting to see you doing well out there.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a fun transition. Obviously, haven't been in this MMA game super long, but it's going well. So I'm enjoying it for sure.
Well, dude, one of the things I see you doing, and something the great Magic Man's done for a while, is go to Coach Cael's garage and get some workouts in. Bro, how hard are those workouts when you step in that garage?
Oh yeah, those are the real deal. I mean, I've been in a lot of workouts in my life, done a lot of hard things, and I would say that, you know, the garage workouts are truly second to none. And yeah, been fortunate to, you know, get to know Coach Cael really well. Sometimes it seems a little too well, just based on how those workouts go. But yeah, very grateful to have him in my corner and have him helping me out.
So how often are you going out there?
Well, I mean, I'm in communication with him every day, pretty much, you know, just discussing my training cycle, my weight, my nutrition, strength and conditioning, everything. So but as far as actually being out there, I'm probably out there a couple times a year. But Yeah, I'm mainly in state college still. So, I mean, I'm traveling a lot for training, but I would say 80-90% of my time spent in state college. And then I bounce down to Florida once in a while at the American Top Team. Then I'm out in Cali once in a while too to train with Training Lab.
Dude, you're on the move, making things happen. Like I said, man, the MMA career is just getting going. I was stunned to see the American Top Team facility open near Penn State. That was incredible. What happened there?
Yeah, well, it actually started off 2019. As soon as I graduated college, I think I just put out a tweet like, hey, like I'm planning on doing the Olympics and then I want to fight. And so at that point, I had a bunch of managers and agencies reaching out to me, wanting to represent me and stuff. And I got in touch with First Round Management based in Miami, and I got good vibes from them right away. They rep a lot of high level fighters at the time: John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, Masvidal, Anthony Pettis. So tons of top level guys. And so I went down and met with them, and they actually, my manager, Malky Kawa, I signed with them, and they introduced me to Dan Lambert, who he's the founder of American Top Team, and got to go to the main ATT headquarters and meet with them, and then went to a Miami football game with Dan and a crew. And then I just told him, it was actually kind of, initially my manager asked me like what I wanted to do for training. And I was like, well, I mean, I would like to stay in state college if I can. And he was like, what would you think about building a gym out there? And I was like, well, that would be ideal. So then that was why he introduced me to Dan. And then at that point, we pitched it to Dan, and Dan was like, dude, that's an amazing idea. Like, I love it. I'm all in. And so it was like right away, like we vibed, we clicked. And, we'd obviously kind of preface Dan on what we were trying to do, but he just wanted to meet me and stuff and see what I was about. And we immediately got on great. And then that was like early fall of 2019. And then from there, I just told him that, I'm planning on wrestling the Olympics, and, I'm still training freestyle full time at this point. I hadn't done any MMA training. And so then we started putting together plans to get the gym built. So we got a spot, like some land and stuff. And then COVID hit. So everything got pushed back like a full year, like Olympic trials did. And so did the building of the gym. So it was supposed to be August of 2020 when it got finished out. It ended up finishing out August of 21. And then, it was kind of a smooth transition for me with the Olympic trials being in April. I had some injuries and stuff, so I took some time off. And then immediately when it was finished up, the building, I started training in May.
Got it. Man, that is incredible. So, I mean, think about the situation for American Top Team to be at the at ground zero for some of the best wrestling in the world going on right now, getting guys coming in to train there. Who were the coaches there? Did they set them up from Florida, or are they local PA guys?
No, so we have two full-time coaches. Marcel Ferreira, he was actually in Texas prior to being here, but he ran an American Top Team gym based out of Texas, and he's multiple-time jiu-jitsu world champion. So he handles our grappling and coaches the jiu-jitsu. And then I have another striking coach. His name's Tan. He's a Brazilian guy, but he fights Muay Thai. He lived in Thailand for 10 years, had like 80 plus pro Muay Thai fights, and then was traveling the country, like teaching after that. And then now he's out here full time. So I have two full-time coaches, and then another coach who he's a teammate of mine, but he's a collegiate national champion in boxing. And so he's teaching me boxing. So I have a good solid crew of coaches. And then of course I'm still training with Nickal Wrestling Club in Penn State as well.
And we have the Italian stallion, Anthony Cassar. He's going through it with you, right?
Yeah. So Anthony, he had some shoulder issues. So he hasn't obviously made his MMA debut yet, but he's planning on debuting in December of this year. Probably do one amateur fight and then go pro after that. So he is just now like getting back to where he's training hard and getting ready to fight. So his first fight will be in December, and I'm excited to see him get in there.
Yeah, I didn't know. I hadn't heard from him for a while, so I don't know what he was doing. But that's awesome, and he's amazing. And you don't see many heavyweights with a 6-pack and have 2 wins over Gable Steveson. That's pretty crazy.
I think there's only one. So
actually, there probably probably is the case. I don't know how many Gwiz has, but yeah. So, I mean, man, so good things are happening out in Happy Valley, and you had an amazing career. But one of the things that I thought was interesting was going back down your rabbit hole. You spent a year high school wrestling in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Was that planned? Like, were you just going there to get an 8th grade year in, or what was the story behind that?
So I actually lived in New Mexico at the time. So I moved to New Mexico in the 5th grade from Wyoming. So I lived there for a few years. My dad was coaching the high school team there. And it was, we were really in New Mexico because it was a good opportunity for my family with my dad's job and a good program, him being able to coach and stuff. And so, I lived there for 3.5 years and fortunate, to have the rules where I could compete on the varsity level in the 8th grade. So yeah, my first year competing varsity, I think I probably got like 40 or 50 matches that year and wrestled 103. But
wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but yeah, definitely a fun start to my career. And that was kind of like, I think when I started taking I always took wrestling seriously, but it was like, kind of jumped a level at that point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you when the switch point was, because if you look back at your kids' results, obviously you've been at it for a while, but there's you jumped crazy levels, and we'll get to the world teams. Now, when I was going through it, Riley and Dak Adamson from New Mexico were absolute killers. Are they still around the scene?
I don't think they're around the scene. I think so. When we got there, they actually moved like right as we got there, and they moved, which was funny enough. They moved to Texas, so it was like wow. But I never really knew them super well or anything like that. I just know of course, I seen them at wrestling tournaments and stuff, and they were just little killers as young kids and stuff. But I went to the same middle school as Riley, and I just always remember there was this record on like the board. They had like fitness records, like for people that ran a mile or did whatever, and it just said like pull-ups, and it was like 82 Riley Adams. This was like a seventh grade like pull-up record, and I was just like, yo, like I feel like if somebody that didn't know him just saw that, would be like, that's must have been 28, like they must have mixed up the numbers. But like obviously I knew him from wrestling, and so I'm like, okay, like if anybody can do it, I can see him doing it.
Wow. So man, that's how it started. And then you go to Texas and you make your first world team in 2012. Lose to the Russian in the semis. What'd you take away from that trip?
That was honestly a super great trip for me, just because I got so many matches with international competition. I mean, that was my first time ever wrestling anybody from a different country. Obviously had tons of matches against Americans, but I think like just getting that experience was super valuable in that, like, I kind of knew what I was up against at that point. Like before, there's like just a lot of unknowns, a lot of factors. Obviously, like we know Russia and Iran have great wrestling, but like you've never been up against anybody. So it's just kind of like this aura, like, and it's almost like intimidating to go up against a guy like that for the first time, because you don't really know anything. It's just like they might be a killer, they might not. Like we've never seen him, no film, no nothing. But I think coming out of that tournament, it really gave me confidence. I was like, I could beat these guys. Like that was obviously, I had goals of being world and Olympic champ at a young age. And the first time testing myself, I don't feel like I performed super well, but I felt like, that experience gave me confidence in knowing like, hey, if I get back in here and I wrestle to my capabilities, like I don't really feel like these guys can hang with me. So yeah, I mean, not a great result, but really important for my development.
It's crazy that that's the dude you wrestled in 2019 to win your first title.
I know. Yeah. It's super nuts. That was like, I just remember when going into U23, I was like, I didn't really care who was in my bracket. I was like, I'm going to smash these dudes. Like I'm a 3-time NCAA champion. Like I've been through it. These guys don't even know what's coming. And so the goal there was, I'm not getting a point scored on me. I'm going to take every single guy I wrestle. I don't care who they are. And so then I saw the Russian on the other side, and I was like, oh, this guy's like not bad. I watched one of his early round matches. And then I like saw his name on the bracket, and I was like, that looks super familiar. And so then I looked him up, and then I realized after the semis, I was like, because it was like we wrestled to the finals on day one, and then day two was the last match. And so I was like, oh, like I got to freaking rematch this guy. And I was like, I'm about to smash this dude. It got me honestly really fired up, really hyped up, because I was like, this is great. This has been like, I don't even know, 7 years in the making. And now I get a rematch. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's crazy, man. I mean, the chances of that to come full circle are just unbelievable.
Yeah, you know who was actually in the Cadet Worlds that year too was he was, I think, either a weight or 2 weights above me was Sajaliah. He destroyed everybody that year, and I think he maybe even went like senior level the next. I think he went senior level in like 2014 or 2015. So it was soon after that, which was crazy. I remember him, he just killed everybody at that tournament. I was like, wow, this guy's the real deal.
That's insane, man. You look at some of those old brackets, and I'm sure even guys on your team were guys we know about now.
Oh yeah, the team we had was pretty stacked. We had like, I think we had Spencer Lee, Austin Gomez, Aaron Pico was on the team. Like we were legit. Like a lot of those guys had, won world titles later after that. So I mean, the team was stacked, but it was a fun trip for sure. Michich was on the team too, Stevan. So yeah, we had a good time.
And then how long after that until the great Cael Sanderson lobs a phone call?
So I'm trying to think of timeline wise. So that was, I want to say, in between. That was maybe like right after my junior year. Yeah. So it was shortly after that I got the call. Was it? I'm trying to remember. I get the timelines mixed up, but yeah, it was shortly after that summer that I got the call, and it was kind of funny. I had been talking, with a bunch of other schools here and there, and a lot of schools were recruiting me really hard, really heavy, like at a young age, and they Penn State came in late and was like, but I was really holding out for them because they were at the time the team, so they kind of came in late to the conversation, and fortunately, I remember the timeline now actually. So this is kind of a funny story. So for the U20 or for the whatever that was, Cadet World Trials was in Akron, and Penn State had reached out to me right before that, and I set up a visit. So I set up a visit with Ohio State before the trials in Columbus, and then I wrestled, and then afterwards I went and visited Penn State, and that was like my first time meeting everybody and talking with the coaches and stuff. And so it's really cool because I got to visit Ohio State, see what I liked there, wrestle in a tournament, obviously won, did well, so I was in good spirits, and then went over to Penn State and got to meet them as well, which those are my top 2 schools at that point. I was like really unsure between Penn State and Ohio State, and then the visit really gave me a lot of clarity. So I was able to chat with Coach Cael, and then later that summer, they offered me a scholarship, and I accepted right away.
I mean, look at the weight class you're at and those coaches. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, without a doubt. No-brainer. I mean, and not to mention all the training partners that I had. At that point, it was David, Ed Ruth, Quentin Wright, even like Frank Molinaro, the Alton brothers, Matt Brown. It was just like insane. And then our recruiting class, I think we were already either predicted to be the number 1 recruiting class or the number 1 recruiting class, like before I even committed. So it was like, at that point, before I committed, we had Null, we had Nevels, we had Marsteller, all committed to, and these were all like top 10 pound per pound guys. And then I committed. So I think we had at one point 4 out of the top 10 pound per pound in the recruiting rankings. And then Marsteller obviously didn't go. But then, in addition to that, we had Shakur Rashid and Anthony Cassar both come in that same class as well.
Holy smokes. Who led you on your recruiting trip?
I was with, my recruiting trip, we came up for Michigan football game, and it was a whiteout. It was sick. And my guy was Matt McCutcheon. We kind of vibed immediately right away, just like went on my unofficial. And so then he hosted me because he was a freshman that year. And it was me, and then the only other recruit on the trip was Ethan Lezak, and then Zane Rutherford hosted Lezak. So yeah, we had a good time. It was super fun. And Penn State won like a quadruple overtime football game, whiteout. It was like an unbelievable atmosphere.
Dude, those fall football games are unreal in Big Ten country.
No doubt. Yeah, that was like, I didn't really like care about. I played football in high school and stuff, and like my high school football team was the number one team in the country. So like I was used to big football games and stuff. Like that was something that was like, but it wasn't really like, I didn't really think about it coming to Penn State. I was like, so I got to the game, they take us down the field, and I'm like, yo, this is another level. Like this is crazy. It was really cool too, because I was just a recruit. Like nobody really even should have known me, but like a ton of people knew me. They're like big time wrestling fans there too. So there's like a lot of overlap with the fan bases. So people were like, yo, can't wait to see you out here and this and that. And I'm like, I don't even know how you guys know me, but they just love the sports out here.
And you said, Allen High School has 18,000 people in the stands. Football, we know, is massive there. Was wrestling getting any love at Allen back in the day?
I would say not too much. I mean, obviously we had a really great team. For Texas standards, I think this year's like our 13th year in a row winning state championship or something wild. So, we've always had a solid program and a lot of good guys coming out of there. We didn't really get a ton of people at our matches. I would say like a little later in my career, like I would kind of bring more people out, like more people would come to watch me and stuff. But we didn't really compete at home a lot even. Like we were all over the place, competing in Oklahoma, wrestling in Kansas City Stampede, wrestling Ironman. We wrestled at Zinkin Memorial in Cali. We wrestled at the Cheesehead. Like we were all over. I mean, we really only did our districts, regionals, and state, like in state. We maybe did one other tournament like the whole year. So wrestling, people like didn't know a lot about wrestling, but I think when I started coming up, I started getting recruited heavy, and I also played football for 2 years. So like people knew me and stuff. And then we started getting a few more kids and fans towards like the end of my career.
And that's a full-on national schedule. I didn't know you guys were traveling to that extent. And so once you got to Penn State, you were world level, national level. What was the first semester like? Were you ready for the workouts and living away from home and all that?
Yeah. I think, for me, it was coming into college, it was all about wrestling. I was like, I'm here to be a 4-time NCAA champion. I don't give a crap about anything else. The college lifestyle, this and that, like, don't mean nothing to me. I'm here to wrestle. And obviously, take care of my school, take care of my grades. Like that goes without saying. But my main focus, priority, everything was wrestling. So, I had an easy transition relatively, especially with the guys on the team. We had a lot of great leaders at that point. And I came out in the summer. So I was able to do the summer session and get a few credits underneath my belt, get used to kind of the scheduling and the workouts and all that, while there wasn't really a ton going on campus, and get to know my teammates. And so that was a really good thing that I did, just because it's like, I would say lower pressure. I was only taking maybe 2 classes versus a full course load of 4 or 5. And so getting that little kind of test in the summer helped me a lot. And then, to be honest, wrestling wise, a lot of people say like they go into college and they're like getting their butt kicked or not getting takedowns or getting smoked all the time and getting smashed. And I did pretty well. I mean, relative to, I was in there to compete. Like I didn't care who I was wrestling against. Yeah, I took my lumps. Yeah, I got beat up here and there, but like I was in there ready to grind right away. Like, especially with the guys around my weight class that were older, seniors. Matt Brown, he used to kick my butt a little bit. It would be like I would be getting smashed, but it would be like I was still kind of in there, And then I wrestled Coach Cael, Coach Casey. Those guys were a little too big for me at that point, so I kind of give myself a pass wrestling to Coach Cael at 220ish, whatever he is. So, but yeah, it was all fun and all exciting for me to kind of make that transition, and I was just all in from the jump.
And if you're all in like that, I got to imagine you're thinking ahead a lot. How often are you visualizing and getting into self-talk and that kind of thing?
Oh, a ton. That's something that I kind of did on my own prior to getting to Penn State, like without really knowing any of the reasoning behind. I would just, visualize myself like from a kid. Like I remember I would visualize myself like winning Tulsa Nationals or something like that when I'm like 7th grade. And so like I kind of always did that growing up unknowingly, like just because I just naturally kind of did it. And then when I got to school, that was something that we preached big time. So we actually had like a big podium that's set up in our wrestling room that we can stand on the top of the podium after every practice and visualize. And our coaches all preach that. And we have a great sports psychologist, Bonnie. I don't even know if I would call her sports psychologist. She's more of just somebody to help you with anything. And as a freshman, you're required to meet with her. So I was meeting with her regularly, and she gave me a ton of tools to use in that regard that I could apply to, help my mindset and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I was really, I would say, it actually, I started getting better at wrestling when I worried about it a little less, because I was like way hyper focused, like almost too much. Like I couldn't relax, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. So like from the jump, it was all full 100% all in. And I think it was actually healthier for me later in my career when I took like a little step back and relaxed a little bit. It was, I got better results.
Kind of loosen the grip a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, I would say it was more to do with my mindset as far as feeling the pressure, because, I think a lot of people expected me to do big things in college. Like, they expected me to do well, but what I expected of myself was I expected to be a 4-time undefeated national champion. Like that was it. It was 4-time undefeated national champion or I'm a failure. And so I was just so all in on that. And I just put so much pressure on myself that I think during my freshman year, there were matches where I didn't perform to the level I could have, because I was way too focused on winning and losing. I mean, especially my national finals match, I go back to that match all the time and think about it. And coming into the match, I just kept telling myself, like, you deserve this. You worked so hard. You definitely you sacrificed more than this guy. You have better coaches than this guy. You have better partners than this guy. You're a better wrestler than this guy. Just go be a better wrestler than him. This and that. And I'm like telling myself all this, which, for the most part, like all that stuff's true, and all that stuff is true. But I think I was so like hyper focused on it that I forgot, like, if I'm going to win the match, I just got to go out and score more points, So it was like I was putting all this extra pressure on myself instead of just focusing on the task at hand and what I needed to do. I kind of let the moment be bigger than me. And that's something that I regret, that I wish I could have done differently, but I'm also grateful for it, because it was a big lesson that I needed to learn. I think I needed to learn it in that moment that was, a high pressure situation. So now I know how to handle those a lot better.
So you still think about it that frequently?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, that when I say like that was my goal coming in, like 4-time national champion, like that was it. Like that's all I had. And it was really my identity. And so, to have it be that for a long time, losing that match in the finals the way I did, not only the way I lost it, but to a guy that I've beaten so many times. I literally wrestled him in the Big Tens 2 weeks earlier, and I pinned him in 45 seconds. So it was like probably like one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and just devastating moment. And afterwards I was super depressed. I was like really, really down on myself, to the point where I just like couldn't really, I was still functioning and stuff, but I couldn't really like think about anything else. It was like every day, like I was having nightmares, like it was bad. And the only reason I got out of it was because I just, like, in the middle of the summer, I was like, yo, you got 3 more years. Are you going to keep like being a baby and feeling sorry for yourself? And is this going to like, you're going to quit, or like you're going to just get back on the horse and get to training hard and do the next best thing, which is be a 3-time national champion? Like, what are you going to do? And I'm not that guy that's going to get hung up on that. And so, yeah, I mean, I just threw myself back into focusing on wrestling, and really, I didn't have my mindset changed until, it's kind of a weird story, but I come all the way back to the Big Ten semi that next year, my sophomore year. And I was having like the most killer season ever. I pinned Sammy Brooks. I pinned Nolan Boyd. I majored TJ Dudley. I'm like smacking these dudes. And Gabe Dean's out my way. And I'm like, yo, I'm coming for you, bro. Like I was super motivated. And I wrestled Miles again in a duel. I beat him 8-2, like easy match, and dominated him. And so I was like really feeling good about myself. And I was also working on a lot of other things in my life, just my mindset, my faith. Kind of, I guess, I've always had faith, but it kind of was re-energized that year. And so I get to the Big Ten semis against Miles again, and I'm like halfway through the match, and it's just not going my way. He's just wrestling a really good match, and he beats me. And it was the weirdest feeling ever, because up until that moment, I've never had a match where I walked off the mat and lost, and I felt like I wouldn't say I felt okay with it. I was still super frustrated, but I was more at peace with it, because I felt like that losing that match, I was like, that doesn't change my identity. Like, that doesn't change who I am. And so it was actually losing that match was another one that was really important, because the last match I lost to the same guy, like, crushed me. It like brought me down to like absolute zero. Like, I felt like very worthless. And then, because I had strengthened my faith and because I had, I think, a better mental space, I lost the match. And it was like immediately, like, I wasn't really like throwing a fit. I was like, okay, like, on to the next. Like, I didn't do well. Like, what do I need to do better? And that was kind of a big moment for me, because I never really, I think I just knew I had matured a lot.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So that was your sophomore year. You lost in the semis or the finals of Big Tens?
Yeah, I lost in the semis of Big Ten. So it was actually crazy. I tore my freaking LCL like in the first period of the match, and it like popped on me like real bad. And I was just like kind of wobbling around on it. And I just like, I knew coming out of the match, I was like, I did everything I could to win that match. Like, it just didn't go my way. He wrestled great. That was probably the best match he wrestled. I think the 2 matches that he beat me were the best matches he wrestled in his whole career. So, I mean, he wrestled lights out, and I didn't. And so I just walked off feeling like, hey man, like I gave my best, and I was at peace with it. I was upset, but I was at peace with it.
Wow. And so, but going back to that loss in 2016, that was in March. You were still thinking about it in the summertime.
Oh, I still think about it all the time. Like, no joke. I think people, I look at it with a different perspective than I did when I first went right after the loss and the immediate months following. Like, I'm not kidding. I would literally wake up every day and think about that match. Like, from when I lost in March all the way through like probably like July. Like, every day, that was like all I thought about, how like much that hurt. And I would have nightmares where the same thing would happen. And then the worst part was I would actually have dreams where I won the match, and it would be like I would be so happy and feel so great. I would dream I won the match, and then I would wake up and I would like be devastated, because I realized like it was just a dream.
Holy smokes.
I took it very, and even my mindset changed from the next time I wrestled him in the duel, I was like, yo, I'm going to kill this guy. Like, I was like being mean to him, like shoving his face in the mat, like mat returning him hard and stuff. And then I think that I just needed to do a lot of maturing mentally in, my mindset and how I approached not only like wrestling matches, but just competing in general. And luckily, I still had to take another loss to be able to learn that lesson, but it really kind of confirmed everything that I felt like I needed to do growth wise in all of those aspects, was when I lost the next time and how I handled it and how I bounced back.
So what do you think changed for you?
I would definitely say the biggest thing was, well, there was 2 things. So how I looked at competition as the funnest part of what I do. Like, I always enjoyed competition the most, but I would say mentally, I never like recognized that it was my favorite thing. It was like, this is really fun and this is exciting for me, but I didn't like let myself enjoy it. And then the other most important thing was that I felt like I got right with God, in that I kind of just started asking myself questions like, hey, like, what do I expect of myself out there? Well, what does God expect of me? And then it was like, all right, well, if this is what I expect of myself and it's different from what God expects of me, that's not right. Like, I need to get those aligned. So I started after for the NCAA tournament that year, I just told myself before every match, I just asked myself a question. I just say, what does God expect you to do out there? And I just said, would tell myself, he just expects me to give my absolute best, give 100% effort. Because that's all I can do. Before I would expect to win, like that was my whole thing, was like I had to win. And I realized that didn't really align with God's beliefs and what he thinks of me. So for me, it was, he just expects me to do my best. And so that's kind of what became my mantra. And I spoke that to myself, not only through that NCAA tournament my sophomore year, but every match after that. And every single time I compete from now on, I always tell myself that.
Wow, that's awesome. That is really powerful. It's a great lesson for younger wrestlers who are listening, and a lot of parents whose kids are listening. Now, knowing that in your corner, going through all of this kind of like real kind of turning point moment, Cael Sanderson's nearby, and I've never talked to him, but what you read is that after he had won 4 and he's gearing up for Athens, he started to feel like wrestling was work and he wasn't enjoying it as much, and he was taking some losses, and it wasn't, a fun thing for him. Not saying that competition was never fun for you, because it sounds like it was, but you changed your mindset on how you viewed competition, and I think he did as well. What was he saying to you throughout this whole discovery process?
Yeah, he gave me so much good advice and so many things that were super beneficial for me. The one thing before matches specifically that I always remember him saying was basically just to like get to my tie up and get to my and control the ties, get to my shot and start small. Like just start with the little things. So like wrestling specifically, it was like start little, because I always like had the big move capability, and I was always able to like do big moves, put people on their back, pin them. But sometimes I felt like I had to do that to win the match. And the only reason I felt like I had to do that was because I really wasn't thinking through the whole process of like what a match is, right? So like when he would tell me just like, start small and build up, like just get a takedown, build up. That made me realize, I'm like, I'm actually just like, I can actually just go out there, get to my tie, focus on getting a takedown, and then like the bigger stuff will come later. And that's actually, so my freshman year, I only got 8 pins. And after that, every single year after that, I was at like minimum 15. So like I doubled my pins like every year. I think my sophomore year, I had like 20 pins. So,
and I had heard you say in another podcast that when you were younger, you were doing that because you were maybe a little bit scared of, not scared of the guy, but scared of like maybe you didn't have it, so you wanted to end it early.
Yeah, that was definitely a mindset of mine. It was like I knew I had that capability, so it was like almost a crutch to fall back on, because if I went out there and I like went for a throw and didn't get it and I got caught, it would be like I could go off the mat and be like, well, I tried. Like it wasn't like I just stalled. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I just, got beat up. Like I tried and he caught me. Like I almost had that excuse like preloaded in my mind, where if I just go for something crazy and I don't get it, well, hey, at least I went for something crazy, like go big or go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed me a lot, feeling like I don't have to do that, but I can still do it, because I had built my reputation up and I had built my skill set up to where people knew, like, if they were to like lock up with me, like that's not good news for them. But then for me, now it was like, all right, just build into that. You have better skills in other areas too than these guys. You're in better shape. And so you don't need to do it all in 30 seconds. You can do it in the last minute of the third period. You can still be dangerous every single second, rather than trying to go for broke all in a minute.
But even what's cool about it is that you always had that in your back pocket if you needed it. And that's why, as I'm getting ready for this interview, I'm watching these matches, and this is a time of year where like wrestling's not top of mind. So I'm a little bit in a wrestling lull. Bro, your matches brought me back to why I love it. I'm in here screaming, watching YouTube. Got the fiance in the other room. She's wondering what's going on. Even in the match in 2016, there's back and forth. And then I jumped to 2018, and I get chills talking about 2018 because team title on the line, Ohio State, Penn State, all year scrapping. Bro, that moment in that match, I listened to it must have been a Penn State broadcast. The guy's going crazy. I've never seen more energy in an NCAA final than that 2018 match.
Man, it's kind of funny. Like I look back at that match and I'm so grateful for so many things, but it was such a culmination of my whole career and really like my mindset shift, because that's my rival. That's like the guy that like I got to beat. And when it comes down to it, like it's me and him, it's the team title, it's that loss in my freshman year. Like I get the chance to rewrite it. And it's kind of funny. If you go back and look at every match from that tournament that I had, I was not wrestling good. I had no pins leading up to that. I had 2 major decisions. I won a decision 14-7 over Max Dean, which is a guy, my teammate now, but he was a freshman at that point. Like I should be trashing that dude. I should be getting points for my team. So I did not have a great tournament leading up to that point. And now I'm against my number 1 rival in the finals. And
on your back a little bit. On your back a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Woo. But before the match started, I just remember being like more nervous than anything I've ever felt. Just because it's the biggest moment in my career, the team title's on the line. I don't even care about me winning the national championship. I'm here for the team. So it's that big of a moment. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to like get my mind right. And Coach Cael comes up to me and he goes, "What's up, man? How you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good, Coach. What's up?" He goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, if I had to put anybody out there right now, I would pick you." And I was like, "Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go."
I was like, it's over. Like, I'm taking this match. I don't care what I have to do. Like, I'm taking this match. And then the craziest thing was like Miles came out ready to go. Like that was like the best he's felt like off the bat. Like he pushed me off the mat right away. Like I'm just really like loose, relaxed, because I know like I'm gonna get this dude tired, and I don't need to push like too hard at the beginning. I can just do my thing, and in the third period, if I need to get 3 takedowns, I'll do it. I'll smash him. Mm-hmm. And so real relaxed, real chill. And he shoots the shot. And I'm thinking, like, I had kind of visualized myself hitting that move on him before. And so I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, I'm good here. Like, I'm going to go for it. And if I don't get it, I'll belly out and he'll get 2. I honestly wasn't even really thinking that. It was just kind of like a position I like. Mm-hmm. So I almost just reacted. It wasn't even like, I didn't really feel like I was going for broke or anything. And I go to hit it. He sprawls heavy because he was on that fast twitch reaction, I'm sure all hyped up with adrenaline and stuff. So he was reacting quick. So he sprawls, I belly down. And I just remember just being like so relaxed. It was like in the practice, just like another day in practice at that point. Cause I do this all the time. Like literally I've been doing that move since I was 6. So he jumps back on me, boom, flip him through. And as soon as I felt him come on me and as soon as I felt him lift, I was like, yo, I'm about to pin this guy in the national freaking finals, like before it even happened. And then flip him through, catch him, pin him. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything's quiet. Like I can't hear anything. Like I'm sure the crowd was like going nuts and stuff, but all I do is see my coaches. I'm just like, I gotta like just celebrate with these guys. So run over, snatch up Coach Casey, and then Coach Cael hits the fastest like drop double leg on me and lifts me up in the air. And it was the best feeling ever. That was like literally, I still have more moments in my athletic career left, but that would be hard to beat. I plan on beating it in some way, but it'll be hard to beat.
Man, that is just amazing. Your ability to remember all these key moments, and it's probably because you're so relaxed and you're so lucid out there. But yeah, you watch that, and I'll send you the link I watched, this Penn State broadcast. It's literally like a 30 for 30 moment when you listen to this guy. It's unbelievable. And yeah, man, it was just such a cool moment to watch and to know the team race was going on. And, we didn't even talk about 2017 where you guys had maybe one of the best finals performances of all time, 5 on the board. So 2018, you guys are running it back. Man, that was incredible. The only other wrestling moment I have to talk to you about, and I don't know where this goes on your radar because you weren't wrestling for Penn State, but man, at the Olympic trials, when you and Zahid squared off, center mat, I remember an energy in the place that you see like maybe once a tournament, and this was that match. Dude, what do you remember from that one?
Well, that's funny because that one actually starts off a lot earlier. It starts off the story from that one in, I believe, 2016, maybe 2017. So all my buddies, Noel, Vincenzo, Mark Hall, Anthony, they were all getting ready to compete in the Junior World Trials. And I was not training at all. This was like a couple months after the folk style season. I hadn't trained in probably 4 or 5 weeks. I was just chilling, running around, doing camps, doing clinics and stuff, and just taking my time off. And I got back, and it was like Monday, and they were like, yo, we're leaving Thursday for the Junior World Trials. And I was like, oh, that's coming up. And then I was kind of like, you all are all going? Like, I might as well go. Like, whatever. Like, I'm the best dude. Like, I'll just go win. Like, I'll just go win and make the team. And like, no one's gonna stop me. And I didn't even know Zahid was like in the finals or nothing. And he had won like the U.S. Nationals, so he was in the finals of the trials. He had to bye, and so I just show up, and I'm not like really prepped at all. I just like rolled up, wrestled what I weighed at, like exactly what I weighed, didn't cut weight, and then so I had to wrestle like 5 matches with like tough dudes. I wrestled like a bunch of college guys and stuff, and like Emery Parker, I think was who I wrestled in the finals. Like he was tough. I wrestled like Bobby Stevenson, Gable's little brother. Like I had 5 like solid matches, and then I was like kind of, the matches like went a little harder than I expected. I expected just to run through them, tech them fast. At one point, I like got put on my back. I had to like fight hard off my back. I was up 8-0, and I went to gut wrench one guy like to tech him, and he like stepped over me, almost pinned me. So I had to like fight super hard, and then we had best two out of 3 later that day. So I was on my 6th and 7th match, and Zahid like came in fresh, ready to freaking scrap. And I was way overlooking him. I was like, I don't even like this dude, like I'm gonna be competitive with him. And he beat me, right? Like, so he beats me. He ends up taking silver at the Junior World.
He
like,
beat you 2 straight or 3 matches?
No, it was like the first match wasn't even close. It was like 6-1. He like took me down, gut wrenched me, and then took me down again in the second. Like I wasn't even really in it. And then the second match was like a close match. It was I think he beat me 3-2. And it was like a bad call. Like we got like 2 right away, and we didn't challenge it because it was like the first 30 seconds. And then, or something like that. I can't remember, but he beat me 2 straight. And so that was like another just embarrassing moment for me. And he was like mad hype afterward, like clapping his hands, like flexing and stuff. And I was just like so pissed because immediately in my head, as soon as the matches ended, I was like, I shouldn't even be here. Like I didn't even train. Like I just rolled up. Like this is like, to put a performance out like that was in my mind just beneath me, because it was to a guy that I felt like I never should have lost to. Tough competitor. Like I'll give him credit. Like he's good. But in my mind, like should not have been put myself in that situation. And so, I'm thinking about that. Like I'm thinking, just like I think about the Miles Martin loss. The Miles Martin loss hurts a lot worse, but that was another one where I was like, I'm getting this one back. Like we'll run it back at some point, and it's in my mind. So I was always thinking about those type of things when I'm training. So we get to the trials, semis last April, and I had a ton of issues. I don't even want to say them all because like it was like so crazy that I was even there at that point. 10 days before the Olympic trials, I tore my MCL 80%. So I had 80% torn MCL 10 days out of the Olympic trials. I really hadn't trained that whole year because I had 2 herniated discs in my back. And so like, I was like in and out of the doctor's office. Like I was like 90% of the way to getting surgery. And I finally got another, doctor to check me out. And he was the head surgeon for the Steelers. And so he was like, kind of suggested I don't get surgery, so at that point I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to have to try to figure out like and deal with this the best I can. So I didn't really train much that whole year, tore my MCL 10 days out. My first match, I had to wrestle my teammate, Carter Starachi, and I scratched my cornea. So I can't see out of my right eye. So like, it's just stupid. Like all the stuff that's happening. Yeah. Like it's just dumb, honestly. Like I hate to even list it to say it, but like I'm retired now, so I don't really care.
Right.
And so like if I was still wrestling, like I would never say this stuff, but dealing with all this stuff. And I was like, I don't give a crap. I'm beating this guy. Like, it doesn't matter. And so get up on him right away. He comes back. And then of course, like, it comes down right to the end. So actually a couple weeks before that, I lost to Gabe Dean in a Rockman match. He beat me, and I like literally, he beat me 3-2, and I pushed him out to like take the lead as time went out. It was like time, boom, pushed him out. And like, I missed it by like a millisecond, but I started my sprint with like less than 20 seconds left in that match. And then I got him with like literally no time left. So I remember Zahid went up on me like 7-6 or 7-5, something like that, with 45 seconds left. And I'm just like, I'm going now. Let's do it. And like, I don't think I took a shot.
Why didn't they let you challenge that? That was so weird.
Oh, in the Rockman one?
No. At the trials, you tossed the brick because it was only one, and it looked like they didn't let you challenge it. It was weird. Yeah,
they didn't. So I don't know why, but they basically like, it was only one for sure. And I was just like, I wanted to throw the brick, but then I was like, I was glad they took it back because I really felt like I had him. Yeah. I just got the gas tank like that. So I didn't really feel like he had it. And so I just kind of like got back to the center and I was like, whatever, let's go. And so then I'm like going to take my first shot of like the whole tournament with a torn MCL. And of course, lefty high C, my bread and butter, get his leg, run him right out of bounds with it, go back up, take the lead. And that was, I think at that point there was maybe 20 seconds left. And I just felt like he didn't have anything for me. Like he didn't have the strength, like he couldn't, like he just didn't have that. He didn't have that horsepower to take me out. And, but he still got slick stuff, you know? So it's a nice little like duck single leg type thing. And his head slides to the outside, which he doesn't really ever hit head outside shots. So his head comes to the outside, and it was weird because I was just so comfortable, so relaxed in that moment. It never, like I was never tense. I think about it tensed up, like he probably would have finished, but I just relaxed. I've been here before, chin whip, boom, right to his back. And yeah, then I was like, it didn't surprise me at all. I just knew he didn't have it. He didn't have it in him to take me out right there. It was like, before we even got back to the center, it was match over. And so when he got to my leg, I was just super relaxed still at that point.
Dude, that chin whip, that's another moment where I'm shouting in here. I was like, I knew how it went down, but not exactly. It's like, holy cow, man. That was from a spectator point of view. It's like, you know, like, so once a tournament, there's like a quarterfinal or something going on where everyone stops. That was one of them. And that was amazing, man. And this interview's been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. We'll let you go. One last question, Bo Nickal. This podcast is called Wrestling Changed My Life. You're retired now, and it breaks my heart to even say that. But you, like you said, you're retired. You're now representing wrestling in UFC, about to be in UFC. You're going to be the next guy to carry the torch for us. You know, what's wrestling given you, or how has it shaped your life?
Oh man, where do I start? Right. I mean, I'll start with this. My grandfather, he wrestled in college, was a wrestling coach. My dad wrestled his whole life, was a wrestling coach. I was on the mats before I could walk with a little singlet and shoes on. So, you know, I would say first and foremost, wrestling is in my blood. It's in my DNA. It's such a big part of who I am. And I've probably spent more time in like watching wrestling myself than anything else in my entire life. So for me, it's really deeper than what wrestling has done for me. It's so much. And it's, really, like I said, it's in my blood, it's in my genetics, it's in my DNA, and I'll hopefully pass that down to my children at some point, and I'll make sure that, you know, they understand how great of a sport this is. I think that for me now, with what wrestling has done for me, I want to give back as much as possible. I'm pursuing a career in MMA, and I really want to represent for the entire wrestling community. I know we are all so proud of our sport, so proud of our roots, of where we come from, of what it means to be a wrestler, of what it means to have cauliflower ears like these.
Yes,
so sir. I'm really excited to just take that wrestling mindset and bring it into, you know, a huge platform that is the UFC, and be able to compete against every other martial art and show that wrestling is the best. Wrestling is the most dominant martial art. not only because I want to be the best, because I want to be a world champ, is because I want to do that for every single person that's ever wrestled, every single person that's in the wrestling community that wants to support me. I'm doing that for all of us. So wrestling really has done everything for me.
I love it, man. Let those folks know in the UFC, you're a wrestler. Every time you get in there, slapping those dudes around. We can't wait, man. Bo Nickal, you have been awesome. Thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to that episode with Bo Nickal. To support this podcast, please go to SpartanCombat.com to place your custom team apparel order for this upcoming season. All past episodes can be found at WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review or rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcast. We'll see you next week on Wrestling Changed My Life.